Mr. Soapbox.
Carol, thank you. It's an honor to be back here, and it's a relief to be out of the Texas heat. If you look on your little device, it's probably approaching 90-something degrees in most of the places in Texas right now. So it was awfully nice to get up this morning in the beautiful Iowa weather, and we've been here since Saturday. So, and kind of going up and down the byways and the highways. Good-looking corn crop. My farmer friends are telling me it's a good-looking corn crop, but it's not bringing enough money in. So, but anyway, those of us who grew up on the farm know that's kind of the way that business goes. When you have a bumper crop, the price is down, and then when you're having a drought, the price is way up here. So, and we can understand that a little bit in Texas right now, as we got a drought going on and cow prices are through the roof. So, anyway, I have spent the last 3+ days traveling across the state talking about why I think it's important for the people of Iowa. You have a very unique opportunity in time from the standpoint of where America is and how Iowa can play a very important role in the trajectory that this country goes in. And I think we all agree that our economy could be better, that Washington does a lot of things that they're not very good at, and actually are not even enumerated in the Constitution. Many of you know that I'm a big fan of not only the Constitution, but over in the Bill of Rights, that 10th Amendment that says that the federal government, by that Constitution, is limited in the things that it should be engaged in. Those powers are enumerated, and everything else is reserved for the states and or the individuals. And I'm a big believer in that. I think that the competition that gets created between those now 50 laboratories of innovation are what make America really powerful, really strong. I can attest to the fact that getting Terry Branstad back in as the governor of Iowa has made this state more competitive. I can attest to the fact that what he and this incredibly energetic lieutenant governor, you've got Kim Reynolds, are out there making states like Texas have to look around and say, okay, how are we going to up our game? And we're pretty good at this economic development business in Texas. We're pretty good about putting policies into place. But what I've shared with these men and women who are running for your Senate, I visited with Brian Schmidt over at an event that he had. Mike Moore had an event that I was participating with. Crystal Bruntz was also, and last night I was with Jeremy Davis over by Ames. And I've talked to each one of them about the concept of making your state even more competitive than it is today. To put tax policies into place that has the light a burden, if you will, on those of you who work and risk your capital to create the jobs that in turn create the wealth. To have a regulatory climate that's fair and predictable. I'll assure you that nothing throws cold water on a project more than if you've put a substantial amount of capital into a project. You may be building a facility, and halfway through it they change the rules or the regulations. And then that has a way to really tampen down the enthusiasm to go invest. You need to have a legal system that doesn't allow for oversuing. And then the fourth part of that foundation is to have public schools that are accountable. Because what that says is that, so, you're building this big Facebook project out here. I mean, they are building, I think it's over 1 million square feet. They didn't come in here if they didn't feel that the workforce was going to be available in this state. So that's telling you that your public schools are headed in the right direction. I think you all have one of the highest graduation rates in America. And that's the kind of message that corporate America, if you will, or for that matter, a small mom and pop business, they want to see those messages of tax, regulation, legal system, and a skilled workforce. And if you want to put Iowa on even a more steep trajectory up, in my opinion, you allow those men and women that believe in having those tax policies as light as they can, the regulatory burden that is stable and predictable, a legal system that doesn't allow for oversuing, and then accountable public schools. Put those into place, and what you will have is this state going up to some of the very rarefied air of one of the most competitive states in the nation. It can happen in Iowa. And when Iowa becomes that competitive, what you see is the surrounding states feel compelled to be more competitive. You'll even see Illinois. Yeah, believe that. I mean, you'll even see Illinois start putting policies into place to make that state be more competitive. Now, my caveat on this is that I've mentioned 4 individuals that are running for the Senate. They all happen to be Republicans. That's the team I play for. I'm for that team. But I think there's an important message here. You give Terry Branstad and that House that already has those principles and policies instilled in it the help over in the Senate, and make that Senate a Republican body too. Because that's what happened in my home state. In 2003, I just want to quickly share with you, in 2003, Texas became this across-the-board Republican-governed state. The House, the Senate, the Lieutenant Governor, the Speaker, and the Lieutenant Governor. All of those individuals were Republicans. And for the first time since back in the 1870s, we passed the most sweeping tort reform in the nation. We went in and we started addressing the tax burden and the regulatory climate. And the result of that was, in a very short period of time, the people of the state of Texas trusted those individuals in the legislature to do the right thing if they weren't going to raise taxes just because the economy turns down. They started feeling very comfortable they could risk their capital and they could have and know that they'd have that return on the investment. We saw our economy take off to the point of, over that period of time, since I've been governor, almost 14 years now, 35% of all the private sector new jobs created in America have been created in Texas. That can and will happen in Iowa. I will tell you, it's going to happen. That's a powerful message. And I want to talk about Washington just a second. You have the opportunity to change the trajectory of Washington, D.C. When you think about what's going on in our country, I don't think I'm the only one that thinks economically we're not where we need to be because of policies that are coming out of Washington, D.C. And I think one of those reasons is because you have Harry Reid and some Republicans, or excuse me, boy, that was a misstatement. I missed that one by a bunch. Harry Reid and the Democrat policies that are being put into place that make it hard for businessmen and women to make those long-term decisions. They're not comfortable that they can risk their capital and have a return on their investment. And then when you think about the foreign policy debacles that we're seeing across this country, whether it's in Libya, in Egypt, in Israel, in Syria, Ukraine, and now what we're seeing back in Iraq with ISIS. America not leading from the front. As a matter of fact, in some of these places, America not leading at all. And I think it's time to have some real change in Washington, D.C. And one of the most powerful ways that you can do that, is to send Joni Ernst to the United States Senate, a powerful voice, a patriotic veteran who understands that we can no longer hollow out our military. If we're going to have a powerful influence around the world, we're going to have to be able to project that power with a military that's able to stand up and when a red line is drawn, that red line needs to mean something in the world. It needs to mean that America is going to stand with her allies, and the enemies of America need to fear what we're about. And Joni Ernst understands that. Iowa, you, over the next 84 days, you had the opportunity to change the trajectory, not just of this state, but of this country. That's why I came to Iowa. I came to Iowa to help those men and women, because I know that when Iowa is more competitive, Texas is going to have to raise its game too. So's Oklahoma. So's those other 47 other states out there outside, or I should say in the contiguous United States. And I'm thinking Alaska and Hawaii too. They're going to have to raise their game. That's what we're about as a people, to compete. I'm thinking when the Hawkeyes play Iowa State, there may be a little competition going on there. And that's what we're about. We shouldn't be afraid of it in the private sector. We shouldn't be afraid of it in the public sector. I believe in competition. I believe it's the powerful explosive, if you will, that can put this country on a trajectory like it's never been on before. I believe the greatest days are ahead of us as a country. I think the greatest days are ahead of this state. I believe this country is ready for that type of competition. And Iowa, I'm going to put it on you, Iowa. I want Iowa to lead this charge over the next 84 days. Let's change not only America, let's change the world by what happens right here in the great state of Iowa. God bless you, and thank you all for coming out and being with us today.